husband, or that he was a racist, or whatever. What I would say we'd call, debunking Gandhi to pull down what they say the myth of the Mahatma. Now, rather than a saint who attracts uncritical and superficial hagiography, which relegates him to a position of a nice little mascot for us, and that means no scholarly or policy relevance. We need to see Gandhi as a complex human being, one who deserves careful attention, and because in the final analysis he got most things right, he's got a great deal to teach us now about where the world is heading. I think Gandhi is too important to be above criticism and too important to be merely the target of sensation seekers. And that's a job for us academics to get that right. Now, maybe I should just take a step back to where these ideas come from. One of the best known, one of the best, but perhaps least known analyses of Gandhian non-violence available in the English language is a book called Gandhi and Group Conflict, an Exploration of Satyagraha. Most of us have never heard of that book because it wasn't published in America. It was published in Norway. It was written by that great Norwegian philosopher and the founder of the deep ecology movement, Arne Næss. Arne Næss, by the way, was the teacher of Johan Galtung. We've heard of Galtung, but there would be no Galtung without Arne Næss. Galtung's very first book was a book with Arne Næss about Gandhi. That's where his career in peace studies started. Now, I was really blessed one day when Arne Næss was at a conference in Melbourne. He came and stayed at our house. And for me, that was an incredible honour. And, of course, in my rather sheepish way, I asked him if he'd autograph his books for me. And he very kindly did so, but he pointed to another one of his books on my shelf that I didn't ask him to autograph, and he said, "Would you like me to autograph that one also?" And again, I was feeling a little bit embarrassed because I had to tell him that I hadn't read that book. But I had a look inside and I noticed that Gandhi wasn't mentioned and Gandhi wasn't in the index, so I didn't read it. And this is what he told me, and this is really interesting. He explained that 1966 book, the title of which was Communication and Argument, Elements of Applied Semantics, was about a Gandhian way of arguing, but he deliberately left Gandhi out of the book because he wanted the book taken seriously. Now, what sort of indictment is that? You write about a Gandhian form of communication, you leave out Gandhi because you're afraid that nobody will take it seriously if you mention Gandhi. Why would that be the case? Why was Gandhi not being taken seriously? Why, in the circles that the book was aimed at, was Gandhi so unrespected that the message had to be provided surreptitiously? So, I mean, I guess let me reiterate here, if we want Gandhi to be taken seriously, we have to take him seriously. There was so much unserious writing about Gandhi that if it had Gandhi in it, people thought, oh no, this is just some fairy story or hagiography, it's not worth pursuing. There's a cottage industry churning out Gandhian biographies, copying material, one book from the next book, very little original research, and if that's the case, who's going to take Gandhi seriously? I have to say that I was a little bit surprised when I rewalked the Gandhi Dandi Yatra in 1983. This was 53 years after Gandhi, that nobody had done it up until then. There are lots of books on Gandhi and Dandi Yatra, Salt Satyagraha, but nobody actually went and did the work. And now an American scholar is writing about Gandhi as a lawyer in South Africa, having a look at his legal briefs. Why has it taken 100 years for somebody to do that? I mean, we much prefer to sit down and have big thoughts about Gandhi and copy a few other books. I mean, we really need to do serious work so that Gandhi can be seen as a serious topic. If we have dozens of journals that need to be filled, it's almost inevitable that they'll be filled with not the best material. they'll cover the same shallow ground, they'll continue to make the dismissal of Gandhi easy in learned circles. And I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't be writing more about Gandhi. Every generation needs to discover Gandhi. We need, children's books on Gandhi to draw them in. But those sort of books will never get the notice of policymakers or those in positions of power. And if we write about Gandhi seriously, we can influence maybe people in policy areas and positions of power, but it has to be a Gandhi that can't be just dismissed. Basically, again, I'm just saying that there's been a lot written on Gandhi, maybe too much, a lot of it not particularly good. Every time I come to India, I tend to take home dozens of the many hundreds of books on Gandhi that have been published since the last time I've been here. And when I do get home and I go through them, I find that the gems are relatively few. And maybe in the Gandhian spirit, we should keep more trees alive. Maybe we shouldn't be chopping down so much trees and using the paper if we don't have something to say. While there's certainly writing of exceptional qualities in Gandhi and India, I'm not saying that there isn't. To a large degree, I think it's not preposterous to say that quality is being drowned out by quantity. As an aside, if I can just say something briefly about the electronic sphere, for better or worse, my students now, if they're writing essays on Gandhi, don't go to Gandhi books. The library has almost disappeared in the West. Everything is now on computer. So they go to Gandhi websites. There are several, in fact there are quite a lot of Gandhi websites now, and most of them do exactly the same material. They've got the same things on, so what's happening in the books is now being repeated on websites. We shouldn't have to be reinventing the wheel all the time, and there is a lot of new material work that should be done that could be put on those websites instead of the same things being repeated. And maybe also the Gandhi conferences, perhaps similar. I get invited to lots of Gandhi conferences in India. I see notices for a lot of Gandhi conferences, and often they seem to be doing the same thing, saying the same thing, it's the same people turning up. And I wonder how much of political relevance comes out of those conferences. And again, I know that there are some very good ones, but it seems that we're doing a lot of repetition. Now, I've come here after a week at Sabarmati Ashram, and I have to say that that's something like my second home. I worked in the archives there very often, and it's just an honour to be in the place where Gandhi walked and to sit on the edge of the steps where he sat playing the charka. Now, I've been regular at the ashram since 1982 when I did the Dandi Yatra. Great to catch up with old ashram friends and see what is happening, but I'm wondering now, as we're moving into a digital age, what is the function of the ashram? You know, it's one Gandhi centre that I know fairly well. I'm trying to think, what is its future? Where is it going to go? How can we ensure that it's this world significant resource, if you like? How can we ensure that it's used in an effective way? Of course, it's got a role as one of India's most historic sites. It's a great museum, it's a pilgrimage centre, or if you live in Ahmedabad, which is one of the most chaotic cities I know, it's a nice oasis in the middle of the bustle of chaotic Ahmedabad. But perhaps it's also got a role as an educational resource for school children. There are educational craft programs. But my particular concern is to think through ways that the ashram or some other institutions in India could be more satisfying venues for international visiting researchers. So I think Gandhi research to benefit by more than just being part of universities. Now, for a researcher like myself, and at least a few others who come to India on a relatively regular basis to do work, the historical atmosphere in powerful ways supports the research experience. I mean, I'm I feel much better doing research in the archives of Sabarmati Ashram than I do at T. Murti or the National Archives, even though they have the same papers, because I'm in Gandhi's place. And to me, maybe I'm just an old romantic or something, but I actually like being there. And I'm thinking, how do we do something with that resource that attracts the best scholars from around the world to interact with the best scholars from India? Eventually, all of Gandhi's documents are going to be digitised, they're going to be on the web. Scholars won't have to go anywhere. Western scholars won't have to come to India. But I think there are always going to be times when it's important to actually hold that document in your hand, to have a look at the margin note, see what the scribble on the back was, or have a look at what that piece that's missing from a bad scan is. And we know that poor scanning is always a problem. Just have a look at the revised edition of Gandhi's collected works and ask yourself where the missing letters have gone. So sometimes it's actually very good to go back to the original resource. But you know, I think that scholarship in a Gandhian site is more than the collection of materials. So I'm thinking